All right, so what I'd like to show you today is actually how you can build your own dashboards and add any information into these dashboards, including metadata for content and much, much more. So to get started, what you need to make sure you have is build permissions to our dataset, to the Cardiolog Analytics SaaS dataset. To do that, you'll just have to reach out to the Microsoft front desk team, let them know that you want build permissions. And once you have those permissions, you'll be able to start creating your own reports. So when I look here at the out-of-the-box reports, if you want to start building your own, all you have to do is click on the Create button here in Power BI. And that will give you the option to start building a report from scratch. What you'll have to do is choose this option, pick a published semantic model, and here choose the Cardiolog Analytics dataset. And here at the bottom, click on the little arrow to create a blank report from scratch. By the way, if you try to do that now, if you try to create a report and you don't see the Cardiolog Analytics SaaS in the list of datasets or semantic models, it means that you don't have the build permissions. So then you'll know that you need to reach out to the front desk team to get those permissions. So now when I'm here in this view, I have a blank report and I have access to all of the rich data collected by Cardiolog. And that's a lot of data. And it's all organized here in different tables and fields. And you can definitely utilize every data point that we collect and build your own reports. So in order to navigate in this large data set, it's recommended to use the search. Just start searching for information that you're interested in. For example, if you'd like to create a report to see the trend of page views over time, like a line graph, for instance, a line chart, to see the page views, just type page views. And then you'll see all the different fields we have related to page views. And you'll be able to use that in your report. What you can do in order to add page views to the dashboard is simply dragging this field onto the canvas, and then Power BI will automatically create a visual for you, in this case, a chart. And you can change, of course, the visualization type and the formatting of it, the colors, everything is possible, of course, here in the visualizations section. You can see here that you have all these different visualizations in Power BI that you can pick from, line charts, tables, meters, pies, everything you need. And you can simply change the visual here to, let's say, a line chart, for example, and add more information to this chart. Right now, it's just showing us one point, which is the total number of page views, but I'd like to see this over time. So I'll add to my chart also the date. So in order to add a date, let's just use the search again in our data section, type date, and drag this here to the x-axis of my chart. And now I have page views by date. I can see the number of page views for every date that I have in my dataset. Now let's add a few important basic filters that we can utilize in our report. First of all, the date filter, of course, like we have in our out-of-the-box report. Let's add a filter for that. To add a filter to the report, you can use the slicer visual. The slicer visual is a special visual in Power BI that lets you slice the information. So we use that as a filter. If you click on it, like so, it will add this visual. And then you have to add, of course, the field you want to filter by. In our case, it's date. So again, we'll search for date and drag the date field to this slicer. And automatically it creates a date slider for us. So we can slice and dice the data based on this filter. You can also change the look and feel of this filter. and filter, for example, based on relative dates, for instance, last 30 days or last 90 days, if you'd like. And to do that, just highlight this visual, go to the Format Your Visual tab, go to Slicer Settings, and change the style of this visual. Right now it's dates, so it's between different dates, but we can also choose relative date. And here you see we have last, next, this, and then you can choose days, weeks, months, years, depending on what you'd like. So I'll change it back to tween. Okay, great. Another important filter we recommend adding to your custom build reports is a filter similar to what we have in our out-of-the-box report, which is the portal tree filter, where you can see all the hierarchy of your sites and you can pick and choose different sites, pages, and documents to report on. So let's add that as well as a filter. So I'll click on a slicer visual again, add it here, and this time I need to find the portal tree. So the portal tree filter that we have in our out-of-the-box report is using a field from the content SharePoint tree table. This table in the dataset contains all of the information about the content that we imported into Cardiolog. That contains the title of the content, when it was created, when it was modified, and more. And in order to present it here as a hierarchy, we'll use this hierarchy field called SharePoint tree structure. It has this icon of a hierarchy because it has all those different levels. So we'll just use that, drag it here. And here we'll have a filter like the portal tree filter that we have in our out-of-the-box solution. So now when I have these two filters, I can add more visuals to my dashboard. So if we have page views by date here that is presented as a line to show trend over time, let's also add a table that represents the actual content. So let's click on the table visual, add it here. And let's say that I'd like to see the most popular content or the most popular pages that were viewed. So let's use some of the fields from our SharePoint content table, SharePoint tree. Let's take the title of the item, drag it here. Let's also add the URL of the item, add it here too. And let's also add when it was created. Put it here, make it bigger. And I'll add a few more details about the usage. Let's add page views. So I'll type page views and drag it. We can drag it straight onto the table like so, and we can also drag it to this area where all the columns of the table are. So I'll add page views here, and I'll also add how many visitors visited this content. So in our platform, we call visitors active users. So we have a measure called active users too. We'll add that, and it will show us how many unique users visited the content. And then let's also add duration to see how much time people spent on those content items. So I'll type duration here and drag the duration to my table too. Now, when I just dragged all these fields to the table, you can see that I can also see here content that was not viewed at all with 0 page views. So if I want to focus just on content that was viewed at least, I don't know, 10 times or more than 0, I can use filters here. When this visual is highlighted, like so with the mouse, when you highlight this visual, you see the filters pane here on the right. This filters pane also contains filters, just like the slicers we added here, but just here out of the box in Power BI. And there are also 3 types of filters here. The first type is filters on this visual, meaning that all the filters that appear under this section will be relevant only for the highlighted visual, in this case, this chart or this table. There's also a section here called filters on this page. Any data fields we'll add here and filter by will impact all of the visuals on this page. And then there's also filters on all pages. Anything you add in here and filter by will apply to all the different report pages that you have. Currently, I just created 1 page, but you can create more here at the bottom. Create multiple pages in your report. So now when we know what kind of filters we can add here, let's focus again on this table. It's highlighted currently, and we'll add a filter for page views. And let's do is greater than 0 to see content that was viewed at least once. And now when I click apply, it applies this filter to the content. And now I can see all the content items that were viewed at least once. Of course, in this selected date range, and if I would have chosen a specific site, it would filter just for that site and so on. Now let's see how we can add more metadata fields about the content. So if we think about some use cases, interesting use cases for adding metadata here, I would think of things like news articles or documents that you have more information about in SharePoint in a form of custom columns or custom metadata fields. For example, if you created, I don't know, things like type or classification or something like that for documents or categories, things like that, you can add those fields into Cardiolog, import those into Cardiolog, and then use those fields here in the reports as filters or as additional columns. So for example, if you want to see all of your documents, the popular documents from category A, I can add category here, filter it by value A, and then I'll see just the documents from that category that were viewed, how many times, and so on. This is also useful for additional metadata about news articles or pages. For example, if you have a published date or anything basically that you add to those content items in SharePoint, you can import that into Cardiolog and use it. So let's see how you can do that here. In my demo data, I think I have some values from metadata, so let's use them here. The metadata information in Cardiolog is stored in these metadata fields, and you can use that in tables. So let's do title. Title is the name of the metadata field. I'll add it here. You can see I have 2 different metadata fields in my dataset, price and priority. And now let's see the actual values of these and choose only content with priority normal, for example, something like that. So I'll add a text value here and pick normal as a filter. And with no page views filter, just to make sure we have some data. Yep. All right. So now I've added into my table. Let's focus just on priority. I added 2 filters to my table and added those fields as well into the table itself to see all the content that I have that is tagged with priority normal. In this case, it's just content that wasn't viewed, but of course, in real life, probably you'll have also content that was viewed. And you can use those metadata fields here also as additional columns or as filters if you want to focus on specific values. So as you can see, there are many data points here that you can choose from. And the easiest way to navigate your way here is just by using search. So anything you want to know, just type it here and you'll find the relevant fields and use them in your report. And as I said before, we recommend adding some basic filters here for easier, navigation and filtering options, the date, of course, and the portal tree so that you can pick specific sites or lists or documents. Remember that you have many formatting options here. You can, control everything here, starting from the visual type, from the colors, the fonts, anything you want. Add data labels, pretty much endless options. So you can play with all these nice options here. And also in tables, we learned about all the different filters that you can see here, the filters on visuals, filters on the page, filters on all pages. So that's pretty much a short overview of how you can build your own custom reports and what kind of data you can add to those reports.